Om Tat Sat means everything is Sat. Everything is a manifestation of the one being. The one being emanates a hypersphere of vibrational energy with information, and it becomes a holographic simulation with all of time present instantaneously in that dimension of pure awareness. Sat, the truth of being, is finally revealed in the simulation itself, and that is what we celebrate on Maha Shiva Ratri. At the very end of this 5-act drama that Shiva has written and cinematographically created, the revelation of all truth is given to all who seek that. And there is universal salvation for all the lost souls who have disconnected from their being, who have no knowledge of the real, who have no love in their heart to be able to rise in devotion, but all are picked up and brought into the light. None is left behind. And the world of suffering is brought to an end, and a new world emerges instantaneously. Shivoham means that Shiva is not only transcendent of the world, not only the creator of the world, but sustains the world through intervening in the process of entropy and guides and directs the process of time miraculously through the avataric appearance of sages who offer clues to the understanding of the code that, once broken, enables one to be free of the illusion of Maya. Those who understand how to gather the clues, how to connect the dots, how to open the heart and the mind to create one pointed focus upon the real, achieve the breakthrough into liberation. And that happens at the very darkest moment of the world, when everyone has lost hope, when everyone fears planetary destruction, when everyone sees madness all around, and criminality and brutality and inhumanity and destruction of the environment and the social orders and all else that was representing goodness. And in those last days, one sees the corruption of all the religious orders and traditions, and all of the values and all of the understandings of what nobility is collapse and are lost to the world at large. And people lose the ability to think clearly and critically. They become naive, they become stupid, they fall under delusional mandates that bring them ever closer to their own destruction, because they have lost touch with the truth of the infinite intelligence of God that we are to be images and embodiments of. And we have lost all of our worthiness by entering into the drive for sensory enjoyment, and have lost connection to the supersensory real. And in that loss of consciousness, we have fallen into the phantasms of the lowest level of mind, of the subconscious hell realms that exist to plague and oppress every ego. And now the world at large has become such a hell realm writ large. And it is in that moment, when everyone has become hopeless and atheistic and lost in materialistic concerns and filled with suicidal tendencies and aggressivity and paranoia and the greed for what they can possess quickly because they see it will all soon be lost. As the Titanic goes down, only those who are awakened will seek the lifeboat of divine love and will find a way to be saved from the maelstrom of destruction brought about by our own refusal to realize our nature as beings of light and of purity and of love. And if so, it is through the return to the reverence for our own seventh chakra, for the holiness of our own being, the making of our bodies and our lives into temples and divine plays, charitras, performances of divine presence. Through the devotion to the Supreme, we become magnetically drawn into the energy field of that supreme wisdom and willpower and creative intelligence and love that enables us to transform our lives once again into the image of God and to live as gods and goddesses in a world designed to be a realm of celestial delight. We can see in this mandala the three levels that we must go through. The Nataraja is the imaginary, the archetypal imaginary level, where Shiva is depicted as other than the dwarf ego, but the ego is being danced upon by karma and will be even more heavily danced upon once the dwarf takes vows to overcome its lower tendencies and will realize its own inability to surmount its obsessions with the enjoyments of the body and the romantic and pornographic fantasies that it harbors in its mind, so that it can never reach a sacred silence in meditation. And it is this imaginary that creates the need for the burning of the fire of yoga in order to free us from that dwarfish condition in which we have fallen from Shiva consciousness, so that we can rise again through being awakened by our own pain. But it's the pain of the shame of having failed ourselves that now will lead us to disgust with the ego and the desire to rise into that consciousness and beauty of divine love, of generosity, of desirelessness, of freedom from objectification of the other. And this will enable us to realize the ultimate subjectivity, the ultimate consciousness that directs the flow of time and even the flow of the stream of consciousness of everyone's mind. All is choreographed, all is determined by that supreme intelligence. But that is only the imaginary, and then we move into the Shiva Lingam, the symbolic dimension, and there we understand the code itself, the logic of worlds and the logic of the understanding of how Logos became Logos in the first place. That consciousness that is the intelligence behind the logic that creates, sustains, and transforms all worlds is contained within the lingam, which is itself a symbolic representation of the real, the light, the flame, the eternal flame of the consciousness of God that is our own immortality and our own transcendental luminosity that has the power of expanding and augmenting to such a velocity and a wattage that it wipes out the illusion of the world and brings all into the singularity of the white light before the collapse of any quantum wave function into the illusion of a matrix. And in that freeing of all the information, all the particles back into the waves, and the waves back into the unified field, ultimate freedom and absolute presence, and the unity of God consciousness distributed throughout the infinity of the field of presence, then redreams the world in fractal infinite dimensions, from the most macrocosmic to the most microcosmic, and to cosms within cosms within cosms, of every possibility and permutation of experience that can be offered by the infinite intelligence of God. And all of us have played through every level to get to this point where we are now ready to graduate from the creation and take our stance in unity with the Creator. And so Maha Shiva Ratri is that moment at the end of time when Shiva opens the window of opportunity to enable us to rise beyond the world, despite all the baggage of many lifetimes that we are carrying, to be freed instantly through grace, if only we seek that grace wholeheartedly and are willing to let go of the identification with the ego. Shiva makes it absolutely simple. But we must shed the imaginary and we must shed the symbolic and abide in the real, in the flame that burns away our karma, burns away all past sanskaras, burns away the vasanas of the mind, so that our consciousness again becomes a silent, holy space. The pure emptiness, the shunyata, that then allows the fullness of God's presence to enter and consummate the union that brings about the ultimate realization of reality in every plane simultaneously. And the final revelation is itself redemption. Shiva asked me to make it very clear to everyone how to attain the Absolute. And if you have clear instructions as to what you must accomplish step by step in order to attain Paramashiva, in order to merge into the Supreme Sun, and become one with that essence from which we derive our being. This final return is what enables us to then function on this plane as avataric spiritual warriors who are able to accomplish the transformation of the world on this plane as ambassadors and emanations and angels and demon slayers who are necessary for the accomplishment of the ending of Kali Yuga. This is known in Sanskrit as the recruitment of the Shiv Sena, Shiva's army. He recruits those yogis who have the courage, the intelligence, the loyalty, the power of love, the fearlessness to function in Shiva's army as those warriors who understand the illusion that Maya is and are willing to face that illusion with the power of truth and be victorious. And this is also the moment of the descent of Shiva, the descent of Shaktipat, of grace, and of Shiva directly as never before in history to all of those who seek to be one with the mind of God and the heart of God without any separation, and to graduate from this school of life and to no longer pursue lesser goals that require going through the cycle of birth and death, and to learn from pain and suffering. But one can learn everything in the mind of God with absolute awe and delight, of joy, of infinite fascination, wonderment, astonishment, and the absolute ecstasy of knowing God's sense of humor as your own. The beauty and the intelligence and the power of God are all on offer to those who wish to know the taste of that, to whatever extent you wish to imbibe it, to become embodiments of it. It is free for the taking. But you must be willing to let go of everything else. So there are 7 stages.